Hi folks. People say you can't prove God by logic, but I think you can. I think logic itself proves God. Atheists can't come up with a single logical, scientifically valid theory to explain existence. The existence of true random chance can never be proven, whereas God is provable. And I'm pretty sure those are the only two options logically available, i.e. random, a stupid creator, or God, an intelligent creator. So, does logic prove God? I propose that logic is Christ and it proves God exists. I propose our old pagan European ancestors worshipped logic as the Son of God and truth as God before Christianity came along, and that's what made the West great. Logic is the primary mechanism in nature. It's cause and effect. So instead of asking, is it possible to prove God by logic, then this question is, does logic itself prove God? I touched on this in the page on Logos. The argument that the existence of logic proves God, but is it valid? What do you think? I define logic from two perspectives. One, it's the primary mechanism by which nature operates, so that's yang, external, it's the provider, and it's also the ability to reason and know reality, which is yin and internal. So I would define logic as the mechanism that created the universe, and hence it's the means by which we can know the universe. Logic is not just in the mind of man, it's in nature. So we have it so we can understand nature and thus live in nature successfully and not die. Logic in nature is cause and effect. This is the primary mechanism of nature. If I drop a heavy weight on my foot, the effect will be a sore foot 100% of the time. Logic in the mind of man is a representation of the cause and effect that determines the natural world. Because I'm able to use logic, I know not to drop heavy things on my feet. So human logic exists to help us survive in a reality which operates on logical principles, i.e. by cause and effect, yang and yin. So nature is cause and effect. Everything we observe in nature is the product of cause and effect. Science is the study of nature, and thus science is the study of cause and effect. Cause and effect is the whole of science, because it's the whole of nature. Every science paper ever written aims to describe cause and effect, i.e. do X and Y happens. Some people will object, saying that science now includes or is even based on principles of randomness. Quantum mechanics and evolution are predicated on the principles of random. However, the principle of true randomness is fundamentally at odds with that of knowledge. There can be statistical randomness, that's valid. We can see it, we can't see a pattern, and that's valid science. Or there can be acausality, which is there is no pattern, and that denies science because it prevents knowledge. It stops the possibility of knowledge. So random is the opposite of science. Acausal, which is the kind of true randomness, is not governed or operating by the laws of cause and effect. If something is truly random or acausal, then it can't be known. Science can't be done on it, and it's outside the scope of knowledge. Acausality is the end and negation of science. Genuine randomness, if it existed, would defy science. It would make the universe forever unknowable and science merely an illusion. Acausality is the exact opposite of logic and thus science. It's an effect without a cause, and it's pure magical thinking. It really is, atheists hide behind science and accuse religious people of magical thinking, but they will eagerly support things like quantum mechanics and say that, the universe came about via a random fluctuation or something like that. It is pure magical thinking. It's total hypocrisy. This is a superstitious belief, not science. Only magic can create an effect without a cause. There is no and can never be any evidence that any phenomena is truly random. It's unprovable because there could always be an underlying mechanism that we don't know about. So to argue against cause and effect in favour of random is anti-science. So these people, it's not science at all, it's the opposite of science. It's superstition and magical thinking. So Wikipedia says that causality is an abstraction that indicates how the world progresses. So Wikipedia doesn't define causality to be a fundamental principle of reality, but as a derived concept that merely indicates what might happen. It seems to be backing away from the determinism of causality. But there's no evidence that causality is not universal, and it's logically impossible to prove an absence of it. It's unprovable. It used to be called the law of causality, and I think it still should. True randomness is not a scientific concept and shouldn't be included in science at all. Even before mankind existed, there were things that were not other things. This is logic. Logic in action. So to have more than two things in existence is to have logic in some form, in a practical form. But that's it. In nature, it doesn't mean that it's not logic. We just identify it as that. That's what we call it, but it's a principle. Anyway, if I drop that heavy weight on my foot, it'll hurt 100% of the time. Causality doesn't indicate, it determines. Nature could not exist without the law of cause and effect, and causality is the law of logic applied to matter. Causality follows the rules of logic because they are the same thing. They're the same thing, just expressed at different levels of reality. Logic is at the air level, and the causality is at the water level. The laws of physics couldn't exist without logic. Logic precedes maths. Matter couldn't exist without the forces that apply on its constituent parts, and those forces follow strict laws. If they didn't, there would be no matter and no prospect of science. So it seems to me there's no reasonable argument against logic being the primary mechanism of nature, which every other mechanism is bound to follow. Logic is a principle. It's a fundamental truth. The existence of logic is a fundamental truth, and logic provides access to fundamental truth. So logic is the mediator between God and creation, and it proves God. Logic is how the universe is made, and it's how we can know how it was made. It's the primary law of nature. Logic had to exist before matter. Logic is not made from matter. Thus, matter is not the primary substance of reality. Logic is. Logic and reason can only be done in a mind. The ability to do logic and reason is the definition of intelligence. Thus, reality must exist in an intelligent mind. QED, right? Science is discovered, not invented. So to invent is to create or design something that has not existed before. People did not invent the universe, or logic, or maths, or science. We just popped up and discovered those things. No one in their right mind would suggest we invented physics. If we could invent physics, why not invent free energy, or teleportation, or whatever? Physics is constrained by reality. It's a process of discovery, not invention. Likewise, we didn't invent logic, we discovered it. The capacity to reason is built into us by evolution, so we can survive. It's not an abstraction, it's a principle. It's an abstract principle, i.e. it's not made of matter, but it's not an abstraction, i.e. only in the minds of men. The law of morality is also predefined, just as a little aside, and we had to discover it. We can't invent morality any more than we can physics. This was the foundational ethos of the common law, the jus gentium, and it's the reason why people used to have unwritten law and juries. Because each case is different and fixed rules can't deliver justice, because fixed rules can't listen. Only humans can listen and understand other humans. Words on paper can't do that. And the spirit of the law is more important than the letter of the law. So this is why they had unwritten laws, because you can't really write it all down. You can provide guidelines, but ultimately the people have to decide on whether a crime was committed. Logic. If it's a principle that everything else we can possibly conceive of, or that exists, depends on, then the universe is made of principles, and matter is too. Principles, rules, and laws create reality, and they're not made of matter, they're thoughts. Thoughts can only exist in the mind. Therefore, we exist in the mind of God. It seems like a reasonable proof. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Thanks for watching, and I hope to do another video soon. Take care.